And welcome to Hannity. President-elect Donald Trump makes key additions to his incoming administration. Hi, everybody. I am Monica Crowley in for Sean tonight. With more details on the transition tonight is Peter Ducey, live from Florida. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Monica. The president-elect must be doing something right in the eyes of the Republican establishment, because today he got an unexpected hat tip from Jeb Bush, who says the nomination of Betsy DeVos for Education Secretary was a good move. Mr. Trump says DeVos, the billionaire philanthropist and one-time head of the Michigan GOP, is going to help him bring school choice to every home in America. The headliner, though, of today's nominations was Governor Nikki Haley to be the U.S. ambassador to the UN. Trump says she is a deal maker, and she is indicating that when the president-elect asks you to represent the country, you do it. That is even though Governor Haley and the president-elect Donald Trump clashed a lot during the primaries. And there does seem to be some concern among Trump's earliest backers about bringing more high-level officials on board who used to be big-time haters, because we heard today that Mitt Romney is still under consideration as Secretary of State, and that's something Mike Huckabee believes should only be offered on one condition.
He attacked him on a personal level about his character, integrity, his honor. Well, when you do that, there's only one way that I think Mitt Romney could even be considered for a post like that, and that is that he goes to a microphone in a very public place and repudiates everything he said in that famous Salt Lake City speech and everything he said after that.
A transition official told me tonight not to expect any more big announcements about cabinet posts until after the holiday, so we're not going to know about Ben Carson's status as the HUD secretary or not until Friday at the earliest. The president-elect did put out a Thanksgiving message, though, tonight, where he offers up a prayer for healing after what he says was a brutal campaign. Monica.
Peter, thank you so much. Also tonight, President-elect Donald Trump has released a Thanksgiving message that Peter just referred to, calling for unity. Let's take a look.
We've just finished a long and bruising political campaign. Emotions are raw and tensions just don't heal overnight. It doesn't go quickly, unfortunately. But we have before us the chance now to make history together, to bring real change to Washington, real safety to our cities, and real prosperity to our communities, including our inner cities. So important to me and so important to our country. But to succeed, we must enlist the effort of our entire nation.
Joining us now with reaction are Fox News contributor Lisa Booth, from the Washington Times, and Fox News contributor Charlie Hurt, and former Clinton pollster and Fox News contributor Doug Schoen. Great to see all of you tonight.
Thank you.
Hi, Monica. Hi. So in many ways, Donald Trump ran the first 21st century post-ideological campaign. And I think what we're seeing now in this flurry of cabinet appointments is that his choices are really reflecting that. Charlie, let's start with you on this question of who he's putting in these key positions. It does seem like he's reaching for strong, accomplished people who will help him carry forth his agenda and his vision for the country. But it also looks like he's approaching forming a government the way he would go about hiring for one of his businesses. Do you agree with that? And do you think that's a positive?
Absolutely, Monica. I think that he is displaying the exact sort of temperament, I think was the word that they all used, that everyone during the primary and during the general election said that he didn't have. You know, he not only has a broader country that he has to unite, he has to unite the Republican Party, and the way to do that is by picking people like Nikki Haley. I don't know why somebody who's governor of South Carolina would want to go and be UN ambassador. Sounds like a terrible job compared to being governor of a great place like South Carolina. But for what Donald Trump needs to get done, it's a very good pick. She's a very appealing figure in among the establishment, and you're going to hear a lot of guff from some of the people that were with him from the beginning. But everybody's going to be dissatisfied with something. This is something he has to do.
Lisa, to Charlie's point there about party unity, there's also a bigger question about bringing the country together. After 8 years of Barack Obama, we can really argue that the country is more divided than ever. So what do his choices, in your mind, what do they mean for both bringing the party together and then trying to get the country on board with his agenda and what he'd like to do?
Well, I think the best way for Donald Trump to try to bring the country together is by success. by creating jobs, by doing the things that he said he can do. And I think if you build a stronger country, you build a stronger America, I think people are going to start coming together. And I think that's what he's doing with some of his cabinet choices and the people that he is choosing to surround himself with, because what he's doing is identifying and bringing people in that are independent thinkers, that are smart, that have have proven track records of success. And that's what Donald Trump said that he was going to do from the beginning, that he was going to identify the best people, surround himself with the best people. And that's what he has done. So I think Americans should feel assured that, Donald Trump is going to surround himself with smart and competent people. But also, if you look at the instances of Senator Jeff Sessions or even General Flynn, who also have track records of being mavericks of sort, of having that independent line of thinking, because I think that's the biggest problem with Washington, D.C. and the reason why people elected Donald Trump is they wanted change. They wanted a change to the bureaucracy of the failed mistakes of the past. And so I think having those independent thinkers, people that are going to think outside of the box, bringing innovative solutions is exactly what this country needs.
Doug, you are my favorite Democrat, or one of them anyway.
Thank you.
When you watch President-elect Trump putting together a cabinet like this, again, more of along the lines of hiring for business rather than the traditional approach of installing loyalists and cronies into these top positions, is it sort of reminiscent of what JFK did in building his government, which was the best and the brightest?
Well, yes, it is. And one of the things John F. Kennedy did, which redounded to the country's benefit, was to bring in Douglas Dillon, a Republican, as Secretary of the Treasury. That led to tax cuts that stimulated our economy, created jobs. I think Donald Trump has made enormous efforts. I think you're exactly right, and he's right, that the country is coming together. I would say the more inclusive, the better. So if Trump were to do what John F. Kennedy did before, and even Barack Obama, who I disagree with on virtually everything, brought in Bob Gates, and he brought in Chuck Hagel, again, an attempt to unify. If Donald Trump reaches out to those few Democrats like me who are willing to praise him and give him not only the benefit of the doubt, but our full support, I believe we will be better still. But he's off to a great start, and his message tonight and his message yesterday were exactly right, Monica.
Charlie, nothing succeeds like success. So with this team, if he moves with all deliberate speed in the first 100 days, particularly with a pro-growth economic agenda, tax reform, rolling back regulations, repealing and replacing Obamacare, filling that Supreme Court vacancy, if he moves that quickly, particularly on the economy, and gets this economy roaring of the kind that we saw during the Reagan years, for example, annual growth rate 6, 8, 9%, won't that silence the opposition? I mean, the left is never really going to go away, but the Democratic opposition really will have a hard time criticizing him.
No, absolutely. The adage that, rising tide lifts all boats absolutely applies here. And I think that what Lisa said a moment ago is exactly right. Nothing will quiet people quite the way critics on both sides, both Republicans and Democrats, quite like having a successful economy come roaring back. And I think that and I think that what we're seeing with a lot of these picks right now are these very much outside the box picks with DeVos for Education Secretary and talk that Ben Carson will be the Secretary of HUD. That's not the sort of picks that you would have expected to get from this guy, and I think it reveals that he really does want to do big things, and doing big things is what he's promised, and he has a unique opportunity, just the way Barack Obama did 8 years ago and failed to execute. Donald Trump has a unique opportunity to do great big things, and hopefully he will convert better than President Obama did.
Yeah, Lisa, we just heard that Thanksgiving message from the president-elect, and look, he wasn't elected to take care of the far left or maintain Barack Obama's legacy. In fact, the exact opposite. He was elected to repudiate it and turn it all back. But that message on Thanksgiving Eve about unity and healing the divisions and I'm going to be the president for all of the people, he's making it really tough for his critics, right? Because he's not providing the kind of ammunition that they expected him to.
Something tells me they'll still find things to criticize him for. But you're right, Monica. I think he sort of set the groundwork. He set the tone. He actually did that on when he gave his announcement, or when he gave his when he gave his speech not on election, you're on election night, or I guess it was the day after, sorry. But when he gave his first speech as president-elect, he really set the groundwork and set the tone for the kind of president that he wants to be, and sort of that unifying message. And you know, back to your point, the best way he's going to get this country together is to get people working again, get this country back on track. And a lot of those partisan attacks, a lot of those attacks from the mainstream media are going to fall to the wayside, because people are going to be happy if they have a job, if they're back to work, if they can pay their bills on time, if energy costs go down. And you look at President Obama, and you mentioned the economy earlier. He has been an obstructionist in so many ways to growing the economy. You look at energy, which is something that President Obama mentioned in his video that he gave, updating on sort of what the first 100 days are going to look like. Energy alone, just releasing some of these federal lands that President Obama has been prohibiting and restricting from energy exploration, that can create jobs, get people working again. Something like the Keystone Pipeline. There are so many opportunities that Donald Trump can work towards that are going to get Americans working again, and I think going to bring unity.
Yep, unleashing the traditional American engine of growth. Okay, guys, please stand by. Coming up next, right here on Hannity, top Trump allies are warning the president-elect against Mitt Romney as Secretary of State. Is it possible for the former rivals to now work together? Our panel is coming right back with reaction. And later, the liberal mainstream media continues to take shots at Donald Trump. What else is new? We're going to show you the very latest example and get reaction. All that and more as Hannity continues.